Hey, I'm Dave, and you're listening to another episode of Dying to Listen podcast presented by the Disc Golf Dyers Guild. Today, we have our first international guest, and if he appears upside down, you know why. We have Jason from Good as Gold Disc Dyes. Thank you, Jason, for joining us your evening this morning for me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, first question. Obviously, I'm assuming you played disc golf. What got you into playing disc golf?
I do. I first played probably about 10 years ago. I know that was just a once-off game at a church event, and pretty sure I won. I think we're playing, it wasn't even doubles, I think it was in teams of 3. So not really normal disc golf at all. But it was good fun. And then I never touched a disc again for about another 8 years. And then, like everyone else, COVID came along and looking for things to do. And I thought, you know what, I might buy some discs. That'll be pretty fun. So me and a mate bought some. And I went down and played once. And then I played 4 days later. And then I played pretty much every day after that for the next year and a half. So, yeah.
That is awesome. I also forgot to ask, since you are our first international guest, where are you located?
Oh, yeah. I'm in Perth, Western Australia. So on the other side of the world. As you said, it's nighttime here and morning for you. So, yeah, a little bit different.
I'm assuming that's where you were born and raised?
Yeah, been here my whole life. So.
Nice. So do you have any friends with kangaroos?
I'm
sorry.
I used to. Growing up as a kid, we did. Every now and then someone will find a little joey and raise it, but nah, we don't ride them to work or anything like that, if only.
Yes. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
So that's awesome that you got into disc golf, and it seems like, again, the COVID boom kind of brought a lot of disc golfers into there, but why do you keep playing disc golf, and, what do you like about it?
So I grew up playing a bit of regular golf, and I never got very good at that. And so it used to just be $30-$40 spent to spend 4 hours being angry and chasing a little ball around. And I was a cricketer as well. And so throwing was pretty natural to me. So when I picked up a disc, it came pretty quick, and yeah, it was way more fun than normal golf. So.
Nice. So how is the disc golf scene in your area?
Much smaller than the States. So we are definitely growing. COVID had the same effect here as it seemed to everywhere else around the world. Big boom of new players. But yeah, definitely a lot smaller. So we don't have any touring pros or anything like that. We do have a couple of guys who have headed over to Europe. So one guy, Luke Bain, has played the European Tour, played Worlds last year, and he's I think he's 3rd or 4th in the wait list for Worlds this year. So hopefully he gets in. But yeah, it's not a career like you can make of it in Europe or the States just yet.
Do you have a good amount of courses in your area?
In Perth, so we're a city of about 2.5 million people. We've got about a dozen courses, so not heaps, but enough that there's a bit of variety.
What's the nearest course? Like, how far away is it to you?
To me, I'm about one suburb across, so about a 5-minute drive. And,
that's awesome.
So heading home from work, I either turn left to go to the disc golf course or right to go home. So pretty much every day, just turn left, play around.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's the most played course in Australia. It's just a little 18-hole pitch and putt, but it's so much fun.
Awesome. So what got you into disc dyeing then?
Pretty much like everything I do. I saw someone doing it and I went, I reckon I could do that. That looks fun. And then about 2-3 weeks later, I was there doing it. Yeah.
When did you start disc dyeing?
Probably about 3 months after I started playing disc golf, so didn't waste much time.
Nice. So that was like right after, again, you said right after COVID.
Yeah, so I started playing disc golf in April 21, and then I was dyeing about August. Yeah.
Nice. So you haven't been dyeing a whole lot, but the dyes that I've seen are pretty damn good.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, probably about 2 years now, and I've got a little list of all the dyes that I do on my phone. So I think I'm up to about 96 or 97 dyes in total, and that includes I've got a bunch up there. You can see my rack of discs. There's a few failed ones up there as well. They're on the list, so got to count them all.
Yes. Yeah, you haven't been dyeing too long, and the discs that you've dyed are really, really good and amazing. Do you have any formal arts background?
No. I'm one of those people that if you said, can you draw something? I say, no, I don't know how to draw. I can't draw. I'm not arty at all. So I think I'm just really good at colouring in. So it's basically, if you can colour in, I think you can dye a disc pretty well. You just got to be patient.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Do you remember the first disc that you dyed? And if so, what did you do for a method or technique?
I do remember the first disc that I dyed. It's sitting next to me right here. And it is horrible. That's my first one. And I think I had to have 3 goes at it because I went and bought some eye dye, and I got eye dye, not eye dye poly. And so I put it on there and didn't do anything. Put it on there again, still didn't do anything. And then I thought, you know what, maybe I should actually watch that YouTube video and see how this actually works. So, yeah. I know my dog's here. She's trying to get the disc.
Nice.
She's seen me pick up a Frisbee.
So that looked like it was a stencil, right?
Yeah, it was. It was just like a little geometric pattern stencil, and I did that, mixed up some dye with shaving cream. So, yeah. Didn't realize that lotion was the way to go for that. I just saw you can use shaving cream, and I went and bought some. So
yeah, I feel like shaving cream has a lot of first mediums that dyers use, either in a bed or like what you did, mixing dye with it and coloring with it. So for that stencil, did you hand cut it or did you have a machine cut it?
I dived in all the way, and I went and bought a cry cut as part of my first ever dye that I did. So,
wow.
Yeah.
When you do something, you really go in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you dye that machine, or did you get that machine specifically for the disc dyeing, or did you buy it for other purposes as well?
No, just to dye discs.
Okay, yep, you really do go in, all in.
Yeah. I've used it for other stuff a little bit, but mostly for disc dyeing. Yeah. So I risked it. I thought worst case, I'll just put it up on Marketplace or something like that. So
there you go. Well, that's awesome that you went head first. I'm curious to know, what kind of dyes do you have access to in your area?
Not a whole heap. So we used to have way more access to all the eye dye colors, but they seem to be harder and harder to get at the moment. So that's what I started dyeing with. And then all the PCAD stuff was, shipping was pretty prohibitively expensive when I first started. Fortunately, there's a few other local dyers in the Perth area. There's 4 or 5 of us. So every now and then we just team up together, and one guy does a big order and we just pay him for the dyes. So that works pretty well. So now I've got most of the PCAD colors that you could want. Nice.
So what is your dye of choice? Do you use Pro Chemical dye, or do you like eye dye better, or both?
Bit of both. So I find the Pro Chemical and dye yellows are way better than the eye dye stuff, but I really like the eye dye red. That's probably one of my favorite dyes to use.
It's very potent, that's for sure.
And brown as well. The eye dye brown is so versatile.
Yeah. No, the eye dye red, you look at it funny. You'll get it somewhere that you don't want it to.
Yeah.
So for your stenciling, where do you typically find your stencils?
Bit of a variety. So probably one of my favorite things to dye is Pokemon. So I've done, I think, about 10 or 12 different Pokemon. The aim is to one day do the entirety of the first generation, all 151, but that's a long way off. And then do a few commissions, so people just say, hey, can you do this for me, and buy some stencils off Etsy or whatever. And I'm pretty fortunate as well. We've got a guy here in Perth who is actually good at art. I say that like disc dyeing is not an art. I got to be careful, but I think it's definitely a form of art. But he does some amazing drawings, and actually dyeing his work is some of my favorite things to do as well.
That is awesome. Because at the Dyers Guild, I'm trying to build up a collection of original artwork by artists, and if that person would want to sell any of his stencils on the Dyers Guild website, that would be awesome.
I'll hit him up. So his name's Boat. His name's not actually Boat, but we call him Boat. Everyone has a nickname in Australia.
Nice.
And he is if you go onto UDisc and look at the stats and go to the very top of the most rounds played in the world, he's number one there. So he's over 6,000 rounds played on UDisc. So he's a bit of a local celebrity.
Wow, that is impressive. Nice.
So he's, I think probably about 4,000 of those rounds are at my local course as well. And he's quickly approaching 400 aces. So he's a bit of a guru.
Well, you said your course was a pitch and putt. Is it easy to get an ace there?
It's still 50, 60, 70 meter holes. So they're not tiny, but yeah, it's definitely easier to ace there than at your regular size courses.
Yeah. Side note, sometimes I wish the Americans would not use the Freedom units and the better Imperial units because everything is easier to calculate.
Yeah. I was actually going to have a little cheat sheet next to me and have like liters and gallons and the conversions in case it came up. But
yeah,
didn't get there.
I feel like it's like we use whatever. We mix and match all the time, but yeah, whatever. So what vinyl do you use for your stencils?
I am on the Oracle stuff. So
okay.
That was another thing that I went all in with pretty early. I was just buying the Crycat vinyl and it was working out pretty expensive. So I jumped on Amazon and I think I got about 150 feet. There you go, because I bought it from America. So 150 feet of vinyl. And I thought, well, that means I've got to do about 150 dyes to make use of the whole thing. So I'm probably about halfway through it. So getting there.
Nice. Yes. I see that I think you have my stencil chart in the background there.
I do.
That is awesome.
That's so good. I love it.
Yes. I was going to make an updated version and yeah, but awesome. Do you remember your second or third dyes after your first dye?
I do. I think one of them's behind me. Let me have a quick look on the shelf. This is my second one. So it's on a Rock 3, but it's turned into a bit of a practice dye. So I was mixing up some colors on the back, and then that black and red spin was a practice for another disc. So it's quickly become a bit of a palette. So that was in a glue bed, and obviously with the stencil over the top, or stencil first and then in a glue bed. So
nice.
threw that for a fair while, and then I found buzzers. It was quickly out of the bag.
Yeah, you can see, I think I saw that it was actually starting to bleed through the black, or to the back side of the disc.
Yeah, so that was about 2 years worth, I suppose.
Yeah. The first discs that I started to dye are starting to bleed through the black. It's fascinating how the dye just slowly migrates through the disc.
Well, there's a number 3 as well, actually, which is still part of my bag. It's a yellow disc, and so being yellow, I thought might as well put Coldplay on it.
Nice.
But that one hasn't bled anywhere near as much. So
yeah, I was gonna say that looks pretty decent still for a black stencil. What plastic is that on?
It's what is it called? Star plastic.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's definitely faded, but it hasn't seemed to bleed out as much. And it hasn't got that blurriness to it.
Was that other one on a white disc?
It was. So that one was white, and then obviously this one's yellow.
I wonder if the color has anything to do with it. Interesting.
Well, yeah, this is different plastic, but that one's definitely a lot fuzzier on the yellow.
Yeah.
That's RPM atomic plastic. So RPM's New Zealand disc manufacturer.
Gotcha. Do you have a favorite disc manufacturer / plastic you'd like to dye?
I really like dyeing ESP. I find that's really nice to dye. And I did a couple of Castoplast discs and thought this is amazing. And then about a month later, I thought this is not so amazing because they were pretty much gone. So I did think they were good, but then quickly changed my tune on that. So yeah, ESP and RPM seem to be every now and then you'll get an average one to dye and it just feels chalky. But for the most part, their stuff's really nice to dye on their Atomic and their Glow line stuff.
Nice. Yeah, the Castoplast is like, ooh, it looks so good. You look away, come back. Oh, what happened?
Yeah, I did a Clash Popcorn as well, and that did exactly the same thing. So I don't know if they're same plastic or same factory or what. But
have you noticed the ESP plastic fading? Because the ones that I did seem to fade faster than, say, like the normal Star plastic. Like a few months later, and it just gets really, like the blacks just become dull.
To be honest, all the ones I've done on ESP, I haven't kept myself. Oh, here's the dog. She's after those discs. Hey, Can you go outside, please? Off you go. She'll be back. She can't help herself. I've got to stop picking up Frisbees. I haven't kept any on ESP, so I haven't been able to see them over a period of time.
Are there any discs that are easier to procure than others in your area?
I live pretty close to a local shop, so we got Disconnection just down the road. So he's got about 6,000 discs in stock, and he had a shipment of about 2,000 Innova come in a couple of months ago. So not too hard to get most things now. When I first started playing and first started dyeing, it was like the four of us, anything white would come in. It's like, oh, I need that, and we'd all be arguing over it. But now there seems to be plenty to go around. Yeah, so there's a bit of a stockpile up there as well.
Awesome. That's cool that you have a shop. Is there a decent amount of places where you can get disc golf discs from in your area?
So we've got 2 local stores in Perth. So one, our city's sort of divided by a river. So we've got one north of the river, one south of the river. And they both pretty decent sized shops and stock most brands. So Discraft, Innova, MVP, Prodigy, all your Trilogy stuff. And then a few of the smaller brands as well. And then probably Australia-wide, there'd be half a dozen to a dozen decent sized stores. So yeah, if you want something specific, you can usually find it somewhere.
Nice. So, speaking of your dog, I'm assuming your dog likes to chase your discs and potentially retrieve them.
She does. She's a Kelpie, so she's bred for working sheep and chasing.
Yes.
So when I first got her, it was a lot of hard work to get her to not bring my discs back to me when I threw them off the tee. And now maybe 1 in 100 she'll pick up and bring back. But it's pretty interesting. You go out and play, and there'll be a group of us go out, and every time I throw, she bolts and chases my disc, then runs back, and then just stands there and watches everyone else throw. And then when we walk off the tee, she just takes off straight to my disc, and she'll stand there and she'll actually go past everyone else's discs, sniff them, realize they're not mine, and then go find mine, and she just waits there by that. So pretty hard to lose a disc when she's around.
That is handy. Really awesome, honestly. How old is she?
She's 6. So I got her at about 14 months, and she came pretty well pre-trained, but still had that little bit of ball drive that we had to work on a bit.
Yeah, so I'm assuming you take her with when you play disc golf when you can?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so if we just go for casual rounds, I've got 2. The other one's a little bit less intense, so she tends to wander off and do her own thing. But Lexi, the Kelpie, try and take her a bit less because she gets in the way a bit more.
Nice.
She's the field work dog. So if I go and do field work, I just throw it and say, go get it, bring it back, and then I don't have to go and fetch any discs.
That's awesome. Is she relatively gentle with the disc, or do they get chewed up?
On premium plastics, she's fine. If she picks up a baseline plastic, she'll leave teeth mark in it. But yeah, you can play fetch with her with your premium plastics, and she's fine with them. Yeah.
Nice. Have you ever gotten those dog safe discs like the Sonic and stuff like that?
I bought one. I can't remember what it was. It was. Don't think it's a PDGA approved mold, but it was the most understable thing I've ever thrown, and didn't matter how much hyzer or how gently you threw it, it just turned over and roll. So that was a bit of waste of money. I think it was $30 as well. So
Nice. Well, that is awesome that you have your personal disc finder / retriever.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
So have you ever actually found that useful if you like shank your disc into somewhere and you don't know where it is and you have to go find it?
A couple of times when you go deep in the bushes, I just wander around, and especially if you throw more than one disc, if you're just playing a practice round, you go, I know it's in here somewhere. You say, go find it, and she runs around, and she always has more of an idea than me. So even if she doesn't know exactly where it is, she points me in the direction. So yeah, a couple of times she saved me.
That is awesome. Well, you have no reason for losing a disc now.
No, I usually lose them because I forget that I've thrown them and leave them on the course. That's been all the ones I've lost.
That's awesome. So back to disc dyeing. For your stencils, what is your current method for applying the dye to your stencils?
I am using lotion. So we have different brands in Australia. So we've got Sorbolene moisturizer. So you guys will talk about, I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation, but Queen Helene, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
And so when you jump on the Dyers Facebook page or YouTube videos and everyone says, oh, just get this, it's perfect. It's like, well, I don't really have that option. So had to do a bit of experimenting to find something that works. So we got the Sorbolene Vitamin E cream, and that goes on sale pretty regularly at our local supermarket. So just whenever it's on sale, pick up a couple of bottles. You get those strange looks when you walk out with 4 bottles of moisturizer. But
yeah, one time I get like a giant collection of moisturizer and a giant collection of paper towel. It's not what it seems.
Yeah.
What is your preferred dye for black?
I hot dip my blacks. I've never been able to get the not acetone, but denatured alcohol or black method to work for me. It's always just lifted my stencils. So my hot dip's a combination of iodine black and a little bit of iodine brown and the RIT liquid dye as well. I had a couple of them, so I just bought it in. So just whatever was black went in there.
Well, you're guaranteed that it's going to be black if you have all the blacks.
That's what I thought. One of them's got to work.
Yeah. So you hot dip the black part for your stencils. How long do you typically have the disc in that hot dip?
Probably, I tend to do 7-minute dips just so that I can pull it out, make sure there's no bubbles and whatnot, and probably do 4 dips. But I try and keep the temperature pretty low so that it doesn't change the flight characteristic of the disc too much. I don't know if that's a thing, but in my head, that's how it works. If you get it too hot, it could warp it or something like that. So, usually takes... Here you go.
I was going to say, I think your theory is correct that if you get a disc too hot, it can like warp it, and or say if you have like a really domey disc, it could make the dome less domey, which in turn could make the disc more stable because it changes where the parting line technically is.
Yeah. Hey,
so
can you go?
There's an experiment that I was thinking of. No
My
problem.
dogs are trying to play with each other now. Can you guys go outside? Out you go. This is the other one. Gabby, come on up. Quick. There you go. This is my other little black dog.
Oh.
Oh, there we go. All right, off you go. Outside.
But yeah, I think the heat can change the flight characteristics of a disc because it just can slightly change the plastic a little bit.
Yeah, and I've had a couple where I've just had to get a little bit too hot, and especially if they're white discs, it tends to scorch it that little bit, and you get a bit of discoloration as well. So just trying to avoid that.
Interesting. I also had another theory. If you have like a disc that is beat in that is really understable, to like really heat it up to see if you can get it stable again.
Yeah, we got another local dyer who did that with one of his discs. He said I couldn't throw it anymore, so I just chucked it in some dye and put it in the heat, and then he was throwing it again. So definitely, there's a bit of merit to it.
Does confirm my theory, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well then, for the lotion, you apply it to the disc. Do you use any heat with that?
I do. I've got a combination microwave oven, and so it's got a oven setting that you can set from anywhere from 40 degrees up to 200. So I put it in there, 40 degrees for most colors, and then the oranges and yellows, which are a bit trickier to get to take, I'll do at 50. So normally it's about 10 minutes. Reds will do 4 or 5 minutes, and then for those more tricky colors, or when I want a darker color, I might do 2 lots of 10 minutes and get it really solid.
So I'm going to have to put like the conversion subtitles when you say that. Fahrenheit.
Yeah, 40 degrees Celsius, that's like 100 Fahrenheit, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think about 37 or 38 is 100, isn't it?
Probably.
Yeah, so once again, pretty low temperatures.
Yeah, no. You definitely don't want to cook or melt your disc.
I always worry that because it defaults to 200 degrees, I'm worried that I'm going to come back once and just have a puddle in there. So I haven't done it yet. Fingers crossed.
Yes. Do you, when you apply the lotion and you have multiple colors, do you do it all at the same time, or do you do one color at a time?
When I was learning, it was one color at a time because I thought it's safer to do that. But as I've got more experience, to just whack it all on there. And sometimes I'll do it in a couple of different batches, so I'll only weed half of it and maybe do my darker colors first and then weed the rest and do the rest after. But if it's a pretty simple stencil, I tend to just do it all at once now.
Because I was going to say, have you noticed some colors take the dye faster than others?
Yeah. So if you put, like we were talking about the red earlier, and one of the PCAD blues, you put that on there and immediately it's already started to take dye. So definitely a massive difference.
Nice. What is your ratio for your lotion mixtures, and how do you create those?
So I do all my mixes in bottles. I just got these off Amazon, and I use the ounces because that's what's on the PCAD instructions. So I normally mix up about 6 ounces of moisturizer, and I'll put a quarter of a teaspoon of dye in per 2 ounces. So if I do 6 ounces, I'll do 3/4 of a teaspoon. So yeah, and then just lots of shaking, which is hard work.
Nice. Have you ever tried mixing a little bit of water with the powder dye before you put the lotion in?
I have done it when I did a bit of Floetrol stuff, but I found I did it with a couple of the lotion dyes, and my lotion mix just turned super runny. So it was fine for a week or so, and then it just went really, really runny. So to the point where you couldn't even put it on a disc and have it stay where you wanted it to be.
Interesting. I'm just trying to think if I noticed that as well. I mean, I use just a smidge of water just to get it moist and help the dye dissolve. But yeah. Huh.
Yeah, it was actually the first PCAD colors that I got that I did that with. And so I wasn't too sure if it was the different dye that had somehow reacted with the moisturizer or adding that water. But I try to save it because I wanted to not waste my mix. So I put probably about a quarter of a cup of cornstarch in there to try and thicken it up, but still no good. So I just ended up with green everywhere.
And speaking of colors, what is your favorite color or colors to use?
I think PCAD Meadow has got to be pretty close to my favorite. It was the first PCAD color that I used, and so when I got it, I was like, man, this is amazing, because the eye dye greens are not as good. They're more like a camo green kind of color. So compared to them, the meadow was amazing. I did a couple of Ninja Turtle dyes, so getting to use it on that, it's stood out. And then same thing with the eye dye yellows being so average. When I got Dandelion, that changed my life as well. So those two.
That's awesome.
Up there for sure.
Have you tried the new Shamrock color yet?
I've got it, but I haven't used it. So
I think that is my currently new favorite green.
yeah, okay, yeah, cool. I definitely keen to give it a go. I've got one of the dyes that I've got in my list to do. The bloke has green eyes, so I got to do some different greens to see if I can find the right one. So I'll give the Shamrock a go.
Nice. What other dye methods have you tried?
A bit of everything. So I started with the shaving cream on a stencil. I've done one shaving cream mound, which I'm not patient enough to do because you got to be so delicate with the amount of dye you put on. And so I had white spots everywhere. So I gave up on that pretty quick. Done a few glue beds for backgrounds. I'm not no means a glue bed master, but I can do them well enough to get something that looks kind of like what I want. And if it's just a background, it's not too bad. And spent a fair bit of time experimenting with Floetrol as well, trying to get some cells happening, and was getting there, and then it'd disappear, and then you kind of make progress and it'd disappear again. And it was just costing me so much money that I thought, maybe it's not worth it. So I haven't done many cells lately. And we've also got another local guy who he's a painter, so he just buys the Floetrol through his business, and he's nailing the cells. So I said, you just have that. That can be your thing.
Nice. I was going to say, is it hard to get that Floetrol in your area?
It's not, but it's a different brand to what you get in the States. So when you watch videos of people doing cell dyes in the US, there's different consistency to the Floetrol. I think ours is a lot thinner and runnier from what I can see. So it still holds its shape and it still holds the cells, but it seems to splosh around a lot more. So don't know.
Is it called Floetrol?
It is.
It
is. I might have a bottle for it. I do. So that's Flood Floetrol. So I don't know if it's the same brand as what you guys got, but
no, it's the same exact brand. Labeling is different. I don't know if there's like different versions of Floetrol.
Yeah, I tried searching the MSDSs online once, but there wasn't too much information about the ingredients, so couldn't really tell much from that.
Interesting. That I feel like has to be a challenge for you for not being in the States to try to, because like the materials are either harder to get or different, to try to translate, hey, just get the Queen Helene's. It's like, okay, well, you had to experiment to find the lotion that you needed to get. So I feel like it's slightly harder for you guys to kind of equate a one-to-one relationship with some of that stuff, and a lot of experimenting.
Yeah, you can't just jump on and watch a guide and copy it word for word. You've got to figure out the equivalents and stuff. So there's that extra little layer of difficulty.
Plus also the conversion challenges.
Yeah, I'm a science teacher, so I should be okay with that.
That awesome. We'll get to that in a little bit. What is your must-have dye accessory?
Can I say my vinyl cutter? Does that count?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if I had to draw / do any of that myself, I wouldn't be in it. Like I said earlier, art was never my thing. So, without that, I'd be pretty lost. But I would say in terms of making the process easier, laser pointer, which I've got one on a magnet hanging behind me there. I'm fortunate enough in the ceiling right above my dyeing station, there's a nail in the stud. And so I just magnet onto the nail, and that's how I center my stencils. So yeah, I was, for the first few that I did, I was just guessing, and yeah, it looks roughly like the middle of this circle that I cut, and yeah, it never was. So when I got that laser pointer going, that was a bit of a game changer.
So, $1 million question. Do you put the vinyl down on top of the disc, or do you put the disc on top of the vinyl?
I don't know why you would ever put the vinyl on top of the disc. That just does not make sense to me. You got to put the vinyl on the table.
Well, you're wrong, but that's fine. Everybody does things differently.
Yeah, I've never tried the other way, so I can't say that you're wrong, but I'm definitely right.
Okay. The reason why I like putting it on top of the disc is I feel like I have more control of the vinyl because I like taco it, so only like a small portion touches it. I feel like I get less air bubbles that way. But
I suppose when you're dyeing any disc that's got any sort of dome to it, if you're putting a domey disc down, you get the same effect. The discs naturally, you're just touching the center. So I go disc down, and then I go 2 fingers in the middle, and I work out, and then I go in between that, and then flip it over, and then just start from the center and out. Since I switched,
do you do anything to your stencil to make sure you know where the center point is on there?
Usually, I'll just aim for if it's an intricate stencil, and it might be like an eye or some detail on there. I'll just have a look on the vinyl cutting program and find where the middle of that is, and then just line the laser up with that. But if there's not an obvious spot, then I'll put a little Sharpie dot on there with the pen and line it up with that. I have been thinking about getting the pen attachment for the vinyl cutter and getting it to draw a circle in the middle as well, but I haven't got to the shop to buy it yet, so it's probably not necessary.
What I do is I just make like a very, very small circle in the design. So like if it's a black part, then it doesn't matter because it's going to be black. But if there needs to be a part where it doesn't need to be dyed, I just cover that circle up. But it's like a very, very small circle.
Yes. See, I think I'm too lazy to do that. So for me, that adds an extra step. So it's easier just to try and find a spot that looks close to the middle.
And I think the Cricut software uses millimeters, so I use like a 0.03 millimeter circle.
That's pretty small.
Yes. Do you have in your mind a signature style that if someone saw a dye disc, they would go, hey, that's good as gold, this dye's disc?
Probably my Pokemon dyes, I think, would probably be... most people in WA at least would recognise that because I've done quite a few. Or any of Boat's drawings, definitely, because his art style is pretty distinctive. So, and as far as I know, there's only been one other dyer who's dyed one of his designs. So, yeah. I feel like with the stencils, it's a little bit trickier to be, unless you're doing your own designs, to be pretty distinctive and have your own style.
What is your current, favorite technique of dyeing disc or compilation of techniques that you use to dye a disc?
Lately, I've been going with the stencil and then a glue bed background. That seems to be my favorite. But we were talking about different styles that I've experimented with. I've been getting on the spin dyes a little bit as well and doing those, the fades, the Andy dyes fades with the multicolored rims. So they're pretty fun.
Nice. So for your spin dyeing, you have a record player for that?
I do. I just picked up a secondhand one. So I have a feeling I know what question's coming, and I don't know the answer.
Oh, well, I was going to say direct drive or belt?
I think it's a belt drive, and I'm not 100% sure. Pretty sure it's got a belt in there. Because if you put your hands on it, it stops. So I assume that means it's a belt drive.
Oh, well, I mean, as long as it works for you, that's all that really matters. And, what do you use to prop up the disc above that center pin?
Usually just another disc. So if I'm dyeing rim, then I'll put another disc underneath and just flip it over. Or if I'm doing the top of the disc, I just whack it straight on there. Hopefully it's high enough.
Gotcha. I was going to say, do you have Dave's spin die jig rig?
I do not.
I would say I can send you one. But if you have someone that has a 3D printer, I can also send you the STL file so you can print it locally so you don't have to, ship it.
Yeah, I think one of the other dyers is actually getting massively into his 3D printing at the moment as well. So I think he's printed one previously, but I've never managed to get to the point of actually getting one off him. So it's on the list of things to do.
Yes. Well, keep bugging him then.
I will. He's been on a kick of printing accessories for his Zuka card at the moment. So he's got umbrella holders and drink holders and then little pockets everywhere for that. So it's his little hobby.
Nice. You have to be careful with PLA because it is a lower melting point plastic, and I don't know how hot it gets there, but it can definitely warp things. So, yes. I feel like
he's into all sorts of,
and it's going to melt.
He's into all sorts of plastic. He's got like the bendy plastic and the wooden plastic and all sorts. So, yeah, he's dived into that as heavily as I dived into disc dyeing. So.
It seems like you guys go all in over there.
There's not a lot else to do. Just ride our kangaroos around and dye discs. That's it.
So what inspires you for your disc dyes? Like, where do you get your inspiration from?
Most of it's nostalgia. So just childhood cartoons. So anything that people are going to look at and go, oh, I remember that. And I think they're the funnest ones for me when people get to see them. So, or I like doing dye series as well. So my goal last year when I was dyeing was to do at least one series of dyes a month, whether that was a couple of discs or 6 or 8. So I did a Harry Potter series, I did a band series. So I did like Muse, Foo Fighters, Metallica logos. I did a Pokemon series. That's how I got started on them. So, it was nice having that goal because it meant I was dyeing regularly as well. Whereas this year I've been a little bit less regular because I haven't been forcing myself to do that.
So why do you dye discs? And why do you keep dyeing discs? Like, what do you like about it?
I like creating. So I as well as being a science teacher, I'm a woodwork teacher. So I like working with my hands and building stuff. And just that satisfaction of seeing an end product that you've put your time and effort into and being able to sit back and go, gee, I made that. And then having other people look at it and go, man, that's really cool. I think that's where the satisfaction comes from for me.
Nice. Did you make those shelves in the background?
I did, yeah. So these are very slapped together. The bottom one's the prettiest. But yeah, this is... I live with a mate and it's his house, so I just put a piece of wood on the wall so I didn't have to screw everything into the wall. So it's all supported by the desk. So that's my little jerry-rigged setup.
Where is your dye lab at?
In our spare room. So I've basically just taken over the spare room. I did notice that after I did that, my rent went up pretty quickly, but hopefully it was just a coincidence.
Right. Have you had any accidents in there yet?
Not in here. No. I don't know if I should say this in case my housemate watches the podcast, but I did spill a bit of purple in the kitchen on the granite bench top, and so there is, if you know where to look, there is a nice little purple patch on the granite, but hopefully it'll disappear eventually. It's only small.
And speaking of fail stories, what fails have happened to you?
Mostly just flow troll beds that have been average, just all the colours bleeding together and it being a brown-red mess. But I did have one disc I was doing a Pokemon on, and I let the hot dip get way too hot, and so the white disc turned pretty brown, and all the vinyl peeled off it, and it's actually right here. So can I share my failures? Is that all right? Are we allowed to be real on the podcast? Or
Absolutely.
he was going to be a Charmander, and now he looks like a bit of a shadow evil Charmander. So I don't know if you can see the colours, but there's a lot of sort of yellowing and brownness to it. And yeah, none of this was meant to be black. But I don't know. If anyone wants I think it's a river. No, it's a saint. If anyone wants a saint, I can put some colour on it, and maybe someone will want it.
I don't think I've ever gotten a disc so hot that it discolored. That's fascinating, honestly.
Yeah, you should try it.
I don't know if I want to.
I think it was about 90 degrees Celsius. So I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. That's beyond me. I
feel like that's like 200 or something. At least double what the 40 was. So
It doesn't work like that, but roughly, maybe.
Yeah. Yes.
Give or take.
What is the hardest part of disc dyeing for you, and what is the easiest part in your mind?
I think there's two really hard parts for me. The first hardest part is getting started. So just sitting down to commit to doing a dye. And then once I've started, it's really hard to stop. But I think the other thing that I find really challenging is patience. So often I want to shortcut things and think, oh yeah, that'll be good enough, or this will work. And that's when you get your little bleeds and mistakes happen. So just taking that time to know that you're about to stuff up and realizing it and saying, no, actually, no, I should do this properly. So yeah, if I got to glue mask something, waiting for that glue to dry for a day is really challenging.
So how do you get yourself motivated to dye a disc then?
Like I said, last year I had my little goal to do one batch of discs a month, which I think I did 11 out of 12 months. So that really helped. And this year, it's more just been people saying, hey, can you dye discs for me? And knowing that there's people waiting on them. So trying to commit to getting them done so that, get them out of the door.
Yeah, that is some good motivation because people are waiting and you need to get it done.
Yeah. So, yeah, when I first started, I said, I'm not going to do any commissions. I don't like the idea of that because then it puts pressure on and it makes it less fun. So I don't say no when people ask for commissions, but I don't really go out of my way to try and get them. So if people come to me and say, can you do stuff? I'll always say, if I can do it, I'll say yes, but I don't search for them too much.
So the discs that you do dye that aren't commissions, do you try to sell them or do you just dye for your own enjoyment / bag?
Bit of both. So quite a few dyes I'll do for friends and family that I play with. But then Disconnection at the local shop down the road, he stocks all the dyes from the local dyers as well. So we sell them through his shop and he takes a little cut from it just for the work of photographing them and putting them on his website and stuff. So yeah, if I want to dye something, I can dye it and just give it to him. I don't have to have a reason to do it or somewhere for it to go. So that's probably the main reason I sell them. It's not necessarily to make money or anything. It's just, it means I've got the freedom to dye whatever I want and someone hopefully will like it.
How are the disc dyed sales for you?
I've only had 4 or 5 discs that haven't sold, and they're probably my not as great discs that you just get talked into chucking up there anyway, because someone might, you never know what people enjoy. Just because I don't think it's the best, someone else might really love it. So dyes move in Australia. There's definitely a market, but obviously being a smaller disc golf country than the States, they do sometimes take a little bit longer to sell. So it might take a month or 2. You might have a dye sitting there. But yeah, they mostly all go eventually.
Huh. Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like since there are I guess in my mind, less dyers there, that the market isn't as saturated with dyers as it is here in the States. So slightly easier to move those dye discs.
Yeah, so there's seems to be people always kind of popping up, new dyers, and the community, especially in Perth, is pretty friendly and willing to help each other out. So we don't tend to keep too many secrets. It's all, as you say, there's not that many dyers, so it's not like we're all competing with each other. But there's also dyers over east, so the East Coast is obviously the bigger side of the country, and there's a couple of guys over there that do a fair bit as well. But none of us are making lots of money off it. It's definitely just a hobby.
So if you don't mind sharing, who are the other dyers in your area?
So there's 2 OG dyers, so do or die discs. Dave Briggs, he's been around for before I started playing. He was probably dyeing 4 or 5 years, I'd imagine. And when I started, he was the glue bed guy. And some of his glue beds were incredible. And then he kind of became the glue bed spin dye guy. And now he's stealing all my stencil stuff. So yeah, watch out, Briggsy. And then the guy who's doing all the 3D printing, his name's Ken Summers. Shout out to Ken. He's working really hard at the moment. We've got the WA Open coming up this weekend, which is our state major, and he's the tournament director of that. So he's been dyeing for a really long time, but he's far less active in terms of doing dye. So he just does one-offs every now and then, and his tend to be more intricate stencil kind of stuff. And then around the same time that I started dyeing, we had another guy. His name's Gary, Disc Dyes Gaz on Instagram if you want to check him out. And he is big into his stencils as well. So a couple of us doing all the stencil work here. But Gaz kills it. He definitely puts out the most dyes of the dyers in Perth. And there's another couple of guys as well. Beardy, he's I dye a little every day. He's our cell dye guy. And then Disc Tattoo is now pumping out some good stuff as well.
That is awesome. That's cool that you have a little collection of dyers, and I'm assuming you obviously all talk and whatnot, so that's cool.
Yeah, we got a little Facebook group chat that's our sort of think tank. Whenever you need to know how to mix a color or how something works, you just jump on there and say, hey, how would you guys do this? And someone can always come up with an idea. Nice.
Yeah, I'm assuming you have little dye meetups where you ride your kangaroos to one spot. So
yeah.
Is there anything that you would like to do to progress or experiment or improve your dyeing? Like, is there any new technique or anything that you want to try?
I've done one dye where I spent a lot of time with the toothpick and doing a lot of shading. And then the Harry Potter series I did a bit of shading on as well. And like I said earlier, I'm all about colouring in, so being able to do a bit more shading techniques would be definitely something to take it to the next level, but that's that patience game as well. So it's a trade-off between getting it done and making it look cool.
Absolutely. I also feel like the shading adds a lot. It makes it pop. I hate using the word pop, but it makes it stand out and makes it have some depth.
Yeah. And if you, going back to the Pokemon, if you look at all your Pokemon images, there's always that sort of light and dark to all the colors of the Pokemon. And so especially doing them, that would be pretty cool to be able to add in. But yeah, I don't know. I find with the lotion, if you have a border to the lotion that's not on the edge of the vinyl, where it dries out, you get that really deep, dark line. So I'd love to experiment with that and see if I can find some ways around it, whether that's just putting some lotion next to it with no dye in it to stop it drying out or what. I don't know.
Yeah, I've inadvertently had that happen to me, and I'm like, what the hell happened? But yes, it's like darker than the other part.
Yeah.
Yes. Interesting. If you had to give any words of wisdom or advice to either a beginner disc dyer or a seasoned veteran, what would that be?
The longer I go in life, the more I've learned that just because you think that you're not going to be good at something doesn't mean that you actually won't be. So just give it a go would be my advice. So if you don't think you can do it, you don't know until you try. So like I said earlier, I teach woodwork now. When I was at school, I got a D for woodwork, failed it, never picked up a tool again in my life until I was about 25, and then thought, oh yeah, I want to build something. And I built it, and then I built more stuff, and then ended up teaching it. So yeah, just because you think that you're not going to be any good doesn't mean that that's actually the truth.
That is some great advice. So yeah, if you don't think you're good enough, just try it. Just do it to see. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You find out that you don't like it to do it or whatever. But at least you know you tried.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you had to start disc dyeing over again, is there anything that you would do differently, knowing what you know now?
I would probably spend less money on Floetrol. That would be the first one. And maybe I think I jumped into the doing before I'd spent enough time doing the learning stage. So I went, yeah, I can do this. And I probably dyed 3 or 4 discs that weren't as cool as they could have been if I'd actually spent a bit more time watching some YouTube stuff and tutorials and doing some reading. So yeah, but that's kind of the nature of my personality, is I just want to give stuff a go. So no, not a whole lot I would change. Maybe just try and be a bit more patient.
I feel like you're the same as me and just want to get it done the fastest way possible.
It seems to be a bit of a common thread about me. I didn't realize that.
I am bringing out stuff. It's like a therapy session.
Yeah, it's equal parts therapy and podcast. So are we up to the question about my dad yet?
No. So we got to know Jason dye specifically, so we got to learn how he dyes his discs and rides kangaroos. But now we're going to go a little bit on a personal note to get to know Jason a little bit better. So the first set of questions that I have is favorite fave. What is your favorite band or song?
Favorite band? It seems to change a lot. But all time would probably be the Chili Peppers. At the moment, I'm really enjoying The Tallest Man on Earth. So folk from Sweden. I'm probably going to get that wrong. Sweden. I think he's Swedish. And then the other one is Julian Baker. I've been loving one of her older albums at the moment, so that's been on repeat. So, bit of a wide variety there.
Oh, that is awesome. What is your favorite food?
Pasta, any form of pasta, or pizza. So lasagna, spaghetti. I'm pretty sure there's no amount of spaghetti that I couldn't eat. I don't think I've ever had enough. Is there like a restaurant you like to go that has your favorite pasta? No. Mum's pasta. It's pretty good. Nothing beats Mum's cooking, so yeah.
Yes.
Try and make it myself, and it never quite compares.
Nice. What is your favorite beverage?
Diet Coke. Yeah. Are we talking alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
Beverage of any kind.
Diet Coke during the day, and then if the sun's gone down, Diet Coke with a spiced rum in it.
There you go. Yes.
If we're talking beers, we've got a beer in WA called Emu Export, but we call it Red Can because it comes in a red can, or Bush Chook because it's got that emu on it. So Bush Chook's an emu.
Nice. Okay, I have a spider coming down here. Can't really see it.
No, I can't see it. Oh, there he goes.
Yeah. Huh. Speaking of spiders, do you have any spiders in your area?
All of them. Yeah, we got lots of deadly spiders. We got redbacks and White tails. The white tails are the pretty deadly ones. You don't want to get bitten by them. And big huntsmen.
I feel like you have a lot of deadly creatures.
Yeah, you don't... Well, you see them, but they don't kill you all that often.
So besides the disc dyeing and disc golf playing, what other hobbies do you have?
I do some dog sports. So I seem to be into all the niche sports. So Lexi, the Kelpie that was in here trying to get the Frisbees before, we do agility together. So that takes up probably not quite as much time as disc golf, because disc golf's an everyday thing, but we train once a week, and then trials are for about 6 months of the year, most weekends.
That is awesome. That's really awesome. I know I mentioned this before, but have you tried the Frisbee with her, like that with her?
Like Frisbee sports?
Yeah, the dog, I forget what it's called.
There's a few different ones. So there's like a throw distance one where throw and catch. I know one of the OG disc golfers in Australia was into his dog disc sports as well. But I've never done anything with her in that realm. I try not to get her to do too much jumping and catching. She's a little bit injury prone, so it's a good way for them to do an ACL. So trying to avoid getting her to catch the Frisbees.
Makes sense. How old are your dogs?
They're both 6.
Okay.
Yeah, so still pretty young and sprightly, but not puppies anymore, so they're fairly chilled.
Yes. Have you tried any water sports with them?
They both love the beach. We did do dock dogs once. I don't know if you guys have got... I think dock dogs started in Canada, and it's pretty big in the States. But they were scared of jumping off the jetty into the pool, so we gave that up.
Gotcha. You also say you do woodworking. What is your favorite thing to make or build? I like building boxes. Everything in woodwork's a box. So there's 100 different ways to build a box. So just anything that's hand cut is pretty fun as well. Tools make things easy. Hand cut makes things cooler. But once again, it's that patience game. Yes. You can do something that is handcrafted and one of a kind, or you can just use power tools.
Yep, exactly.
So you said you're a teacher. What do you teach?
So I teach science, and I teach woodwork, and I teach one foods class as well. So a little bit of everything. Yeah.
What grades do you teach?
I'm a high school teacher, so grades 7 to 12. So I teach all years of woodwork, and I teach years 7 and 9 science. And I would love to teach some upper school year 11 and 12 chemistry. But unfortunately at my school, chemistry and woodwork are on at the same time, and I'm the only woodwork teacher, so that's not going to happen.
What got you into becoming a teacher?
That's a long story. How long have we got? I went to uni when I left school, because that's what you do when you're intelligent, and that's the thing that everyone's supposed to do. And so I went to uni for about 5 or 6 years and never really got any qualifications, just tried a few different things. So I did engineering for a little while, did about 2/3 of a chemistry degree, did a little bit of an accounting and finance degree, and then I thought, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be at uni because I'm not actually doing all that much. So I left for a few years, and I eventually went back and I finished my accounting and finance degree. So I have a business degree, which I never used. I got to the end of it, and I had an accounting job lined up, and I thought, I don't want to sit behind a desk all day. That doesn't sound like that much fun. So gave that up pretty quick, and then I thought I'd go and do my teaching qualification, because it was just a year. They were changing it from 1 year to 2, so I thought before it goes to 2 years, I might as well just do it because I can, and fell in love with teaching. and been doing it for the last 6-7 years. So
That is awesome. I also feel like you are a man of many talents, and I feel like you're me because you want to do everything, which it seems like you do. And don't take this the wrong way, but I feel like you have ADHD.
I don't have diagnosed ADHD, but sometimes I wonder. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I wonder myself the same time. It's like, you get so engrossed in a new hobby. This is my new hobby. I buy all the gear for the hobby.
Yeah.
I'm bored with this hobby. Hey, another hobby.
Luckily for me, it lasts about 3 to 5 years before I get bored and move on. So I at least get a fair stint out of it. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel that.
Well, but I also feel like the finance/business degree is useful regardless. It's just handy to know that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. One of the other things that I've just done, which it's actually come in really handy with, is I started a disc golf club. So one of the other things keeping me busy at the moment. So yeah.
See, there's not enough time in the day to do all the stuff that we want to do.
That's why it's 10 o'clock at night and we're recording this.
Exactly. But that's awesome that you do all that stuff, and I'm curious to see what your next hobby is going to be.
Oh, me too. I thought I'd found one the other day, and I thought, I cannot do this. I was scrolling on Instagram, and I came across a guy who was making hand-cut dice out of gemstones, and it was the most satisfying thing to watch ever. And I looked up prices and I went, nah, I just can't. I can't. So it was almost that.
That I've never heard of that before, and it's another very niche thing. So
yeah,
yes.
I think he's probably about 1 or 2 people in the world who do it. So very much.
Interesting.
And then I looked at the prices for his dice, and a couple of, I was I think about $2,500 for one dice. So.
Well, I feel like the margin might be potentially better than dyed discs.
Yeah, but I think the time investment is way more.
Yes. All right. Next section that I have is disc selection. If you had to pick 3 discs to play any course, anywhere for the rest of your life, what would the 3 be and why?
Right. I would pick an Envy, because you can do anything you want with an Envy. You can get it to go whichever way you need it to go. I would pick a Captain's Raptor, because I have no sidearm touch, and having spent 25 years playing cricket, my sidearms come from up here, so I need as much stability as I can. And the third one would be tricky. I don't know if I'd just take a P2 to part with, or part with the Envy. Maybe a Wraith for backhand distance. Yeah, that would probably get me by.
Awesome. Are you, I'm assuming, predominantly a forehand guy?
I have that reputation on the course because I have a big forehand, but I think my backhand's more reliable. So, I try and stick to the backhand if it's an option.
Righto. Well, those are the only discs you can use for the rest of your life, so good luck.
All right, easy, done.
Do you have a favorite disc manufacturer that you like?
Probably, I probably throw more Innova than anything else, because the guy that sort of came alongside me when I started playing disc golf and mentored me and showed me the sport was a bit of an Innova guy, so naturally just gravitated towards that. So I bag a Destroyer, a Boss, a Wraith, and then I've started bagging a bit more Discraft lately, so I've got Captain's Raptor in there, replaced the Rock 3 with the Buzz, and then I got a bit of MVP in there, so I got an Envy, and I used to have, if you'd asked me 6 months ago, one disc that I wouldn't go without was an energy. So I don't know if you've ever thrown an energy, but it's basically a tilt. But when you can get it beat in a little bit, it's just super useful utility disc. You can throw rollers with it. You can throw massive flex shots and overhands, thumbers, and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, a little bit of everything. And then I putt with P2s as well. And I've got a Kia in there as well, which is an RPM, kind of like a zone. So that's my overstable approach disc. So yeah, bits and pieces from here and there.
Nice. That energy, do they still make that disc, or is that a discontinued disc?
I got it in the Gyropalooza box, not last year, the year before, but they still make them. Okay. So they're in the same kind of family as the Octane and the Nitro. So I think it goes Octane, Nitro, and Energy in terms of stability. And when you get a fresh max weight Energy, those things are ridiculous. Like, I remember trying to throw a roller, sidearm roller with one, and I get my rollers down really quick, and this one was flat, and I got about 110 meter air shot out of it because it flattened out before it even hit the ground. So.
Do a barrel roll.
Yeah, and then that crazy skip that the overstable discs do when they hit the ground, they do that, but yeah, on steroids.
Nice. So, favorite course. What has been your favorite course that you've ever played so far, and or hole?
Favorite course would probably be Chichester, which is my local pitch and putt. So it's the 18-holer. But being 18 holes in a fairly big park, there's about 8 different U-disc safari layouts that we've made over the years. So you can basically get there and play anything you want to play. So from your 60-meter holes to our longest variation is a 9-holer that we've got mostly par 4s and a par 5, and they're all about 180, 200 meters. So it's a pretty versatile course. So that'd be my number one course. A couple of other really cool ones that we've got here in Perth. We've got Mundaring, which is where the WA Open's going to be this weekend, which hosted the Australian Open in 2017 and 2019, and 2015 and 2017. So Macbeth and Eagle and Ricky Wysocki all came and played that. So that's a pretty cool course. It's out on a golf course up in the hills. So that's really fun. And then I recently just went over to Queensland on the other side of the country. And so this is the Angry Pineapple, because Queenslanders grow lots of pineapples, apparently. That's a thing. And probably my favourite hole was on the course that we played there for the Queensland Open. It was a really long 220, 230 metre par 4 with a massive sidearm placement shot off the tee. And yeah, so that was a really fun hole.
Awesome. Do you have any courses that are on your bucket list that you'd like to play?
Yeah, we've got one in South Australia, which is on the inside of an inactive volcano, or extinct volcano, I suppose. And every time I see it, it just looks incredible. So I'm super keen to get there.
That seemed like it would be very fun.
Yeah. Lots of elevation changes, really green, lots of water. Just looks like an incredible course to play.
So for the courses in your area, what is the terrain like?
Most of our courses are just in public parks, so they're fairly flat. A bit of trees, so we don't have too many wide open courses where you just get to throw as hard as you like. They seem to be a bit of gap hitting, but not really like full-on wooded style courses. There is one private course just outside of Perth, which is that full-on wooded style course. That's called Pine Lines. That's another incredible course to play. That would be probably in my top 3 courses that I've played. So yeah, lots of them is just your local park type courses. Yeah.
Gotcha. I've never heard of the term of safari layout. What is that?
So safari layouts are where you just pick a tee pad and a different basket, and you play from one tee pad to a different basket. So you don't play the normal layout of the course. You make up your own layout.
Very interesting. And I guess a good way to mix it up for that.
Yeah, absolutely. When you've only got 10 or 12 courses, you find ways to keep it exciting, I suppose.
Yes. Next section. If you had to play and hang out with a pro disc golfer, who would it be and why?
I gave this a fair bit of thought, and I couldn't come up with a good answer. But I don't know. I think it'd be hard to go past Paul Macbeth, just because he's so good. So, yeah, I don't know. I think there'd be more fun people to play with, maybe. Matty Oram would be a laugh. Obviously, Germ and Yuli and Nate Sexton would be good fun to play with. And the other person that's kind of a new favourite for me is Isaac Robertson as well. So, yeah, but I don't know. I think if I actually had to choose, I'd go with Paul Macbeth.
Righto. Have you ever been to the States before?
No. So I've done Europe, I've done Africa, and I've done a couple of trips to sort of Southeast Asia, but no, never the States. I'd like to, but I've never had a reason to go there. So maybe
But disc golf is a pretty good reason.
Yeah, I'm not really a travel guy, but since starting disc golf, I've travelled probably more than I ever have. So I travelled to Queensland this year, and I travelled to New South Wales for New South Wales Open last year. So never know, maybe Worlds at some point, something like that. Might be a good excuse to get to the States.
Yeah. So for teaching, do you have summers off?
Yeah, so we have a 6-week summer break over Christmas, and then our school year is divided into 4 terms, so we have 3 lots of 2-week holidays as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, just sneak a trip in there.
Yeah, so unfortunately, being a teacher, the challenge is trying to get leave when you want it. So you get heaps of holidays, but you're kind of a bit hamstrung as to when they are. So I'm looking forward to long service leave when I can just book off a few weeks and do what I want. So that'll be when I probably hit up the States or even Aussie Champs. So Aussie Champs for us is end of November every year, which as a teacher, that's our busy time here. So I've never made it to Champs in the couple of years I've been playing. So that's a bucket list thing as well.
Nice. All right. Well, we got to know Jason on his dying and a little bit on a personal level. So again, I appreciate you being on the podcast, but where can people find your work?
Most of my stuff's on Instagram, so Good as Gold Disc Dyes. All that's on there. Lately, I've been putting a bit more of my dogs on there as well. So if you're into dogs or dog sports, you might see a little bit of that. But yeah, that's the main spot to find me. Or if you want to buy any of my stuff, go hit up Disconnection.
Fantastic. And if we have any Australian listeners, definitely hit him up as well as the other dyers that he mentioned. Because it's always good to have a local dyer. And if for whatever reason I come to Australia in your neck of the woods, I will hit you up.
Awesome. Definitely.
The closest that I've came was the Philippines. That's really it.
That's pretty close. It's the right kind of side of the world, at least.
But that was a long trip. So, again, you're literally halfway around the world. So,
yeah. Well, if you do make it here, I'd love to dye a disc with you. That'd be amazing.
That would be awesome.
Maybe that could be my tour of the States, is just visiting different dyers and their local courses.
Yes. That's one thing that I really want to do for the Dyers Guild is do around the country, the American country, United States, to different dyers. And But thank you, Jason, for being on this podcast. I had a lot of fun, and I hope you listeners have learned something. And we got a little taste of something that is out of the United States. So we're international now.
Thanks.
So All right. We will talk to you guys later. So until next time, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you.